Hello Internet, I'm Kay and welcome back to Game Sprite Mode, a channel that is dedicated to everything reboot. I apologize. It has been an alarming 2 months since my last video. I don't really have a proper excuse for you guys why I haven't posted in so long, other than maybe life happened and I was procrastinating, which really aren't good excuses. So I apologize. I will try to get on a more regular schedule. But now the exciting part. What do I have in store for you today? I actually have another review for you guys, but instead of reviewing a toy, this time I'm going to be reviewing a children's book. So stay tuned and find out.
Warning, incoming game. Warning, incoming game. Game over. User wins.
Okay, so first of all, let me say that this was a complete accident, me finding this book online. It was just by chance I was perusing eBay and stumbled across the listing. Until then, I actually didn't know that Reboot had any books. And I was pleased to find out that this is actually part of a 4-book series. I'm currently looking for the other 3 books. The books in these series are called The Virus Hunter, Virtual Life, Racing the Clock, and The Night Watchman. All of them are like choose your own ending adventure books, and they're all written in 1995 by Dave Morris. So I'm going to be reviewing for you Virus Hunter, which I know the glare is dreadful, but I will post a picture somewhere here, maybe here. So Virus Hunter is interactive literature, as Google pointed out to me. I always knew these kind of books as choose your own adventure books / choose your own ending books. I'm sure a lot of you know what they are, but just in case, I'm just going to do a quick breakdown. Basically, as you're reading, there'll come a point where you have to choose different options. If a character's sitting at home, for example, maybe the options will be stay in your room and hang out or go outside and find friends. Depending on which option you go with, you go to a different page and the ending plays out differently. Virus Hunter is exactly that, times 1,000, which I will get to very soon. The way that these adventure game books work is a little different from regular choose your own ending books, though. There are a lot of added elements that I guess they incorporated to try to make it stand out. So there are 3 key pieces that you actually have to participate with along the way. You have to keep track of these special codes where there's a spot in the book to write these access codes. You can also earn game stars, which when you're in a GameCube, you can earn it depending on what options you make. And also there are some points where it asks you to roll a die, a 6-sided die. And depending on what number you roll, it's going to affect which option you go with. So, before I go into the breakdown of the book, I do want to just read the blurb on the back so you have an idea of the plot of the book. No spoilers yet, but there will be spoilers to come. So, access the incredible virtual world of TV's Reboot. A new arrival in Mainframe claims to be able to kill viruses, but Bob suspects the mysterious stranger is out to delete even more. With this gamebook, you can join Bob, Dot, and Enzo on an exciting adventure. There are life or death decisions to be made, and it's all up to you. It's alphanumeric. Wow, that really selling the book strong. So, it's fairly thin, which is to be expected of a children's book. So, after a couple pages, author credits, yada yada yada, there's an introduction page. Let me try to get this to focus. And this is just telling you how the book works. Then we have 80 pages of actual story, or I guess a gameplay, because it is interactive. Some of the pages are illustrated. Let me just try to find like an actually good picture. It is in black and white, though. I don't know if there was a bit of a budget reason why. Okay, here's a good page. So see, at the bottom there's some illustrations. And then after the 80 pages of the actual story or story options, you have the data record where you can write down your access codes, keep track of game stars, all that fun stuff. Now, for my actual thoughts and opinions on this book. Yikes, man. I know that they were really trying to make this fun for kids. I know a lot of kids don't find reading fun, but this is overkill. So let me just show you the first page. So page 1, which is over here, as you can see at the bottom, access page 10. Okay, gonna flip to page 10, though if there was no option, why didn't it just continue on to page 2? And then see, at the end of page 10, we've already got our 2 options between page 19 and page 28, depending on the decision you make. It's like that for every single page. It's very disjointed. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, but I would prefer if maybe they had like 5 or 6 pages so you could actually get a little bit into the story before giving you options. Literally, at the end of every single page, there's an option. And some pages are like not even half a page. So it's constant flipping back and forth and back and forth. It was not fun. I can tell you that much. Originally, the game plan for this was for me to go through every single option and to count out actually how many different pathways you could go through. But with 80 pages, with 2 to 4 options per page, you can, yeah, there was a reason why I was procrastinating. It got to the point where I didn't even want to read this anymore because it was just getting so tiresome. So I don't know if the other books are laid out exactly like this. Honestly, probably, because it's the same guy who wrote all of them. Not knocking him, but whoever came up with this idea, man, they really went overboard. So the description on the back of the book was very vague, which I personally actually prefer when it comes to movies, books, just anything. I just want to get like the bare minimum knowledge of the plot, so when I'm watching or reading, I can actually be engaged and surprised when things happen. That being said, the plot of this book is a little bit strange. So going forward, there will be mild spoilers. I'm not going to go through every single option and tell you gritty details, but I'm going to tell you enough just to basically get my thoughts and points across. So the first thing I have to say is the character of Torquay, which is the villain, by the way, is just wild, and not in a good way. The book begins with Dot, Enzo, and Bob just chilling in Dot's diner. You know, in season 1 we got a lot of that, so written in 1995, I can see why the setting for this book would probably begin that way. And an unnamed binom rushes in, saying how there's a tear, and so Bob has to go and mend the tear. But it's kind of weird. I don't know if maybe I missed this in the show. I tried doing some Googling to see how this worked, but couldn't find a concrete answer. At one point, Bob says, "Oh, have to stop that tear before it spreads." I didn't realize that tears could spread. Please correct me if I'm wrong, enlighten me in the description, but I never got that impression that they could, like, multiply. But anyways, he goes to mend the tear. And this random dude, I guess, fell through the tear. They didn't really explain. Maybe I haven't read one of the options that explains it, though I feel like I've read this book at least 100 times. But he comes through a tear, doesn't remember what happened, how he got there, though he's kind of shady, so that's probably a lie. So anyways, the book continues, and a lot of the options are kind of showing him around or following this guy, and he's just so shady. He has this, like, special thing, watch gun, I don't even know. It's a thing that can delete sprites like that. And he wants to come to Mainframe, obviously, to rid it of viruses, as the title would kind of imply. So there's some options where you have to seek help from hexadecimal or megabytes involved. So I like that they incorporate some of the known villains at this point. But Torquay is kind of nuts. He doesn't just want to delete megabyte or hexadecimal. Like, if he sees a random binome littering, he will delete them, which is kind of, what? I feel like the character of Dot and Bob are a little strangely written, because this guy is obviously has some issues and is taking it out on these poor sprites and binomes. He's deleting things and people willy-nilly, and they don't seem that concerned the whole time. I'm like so angry, because it's like, okay, so Bob and Dot are just kind of talking about, oh yeah, this guy is kind of sketchy, what should we do? Even though they know that he's done some pretty messed up stuff. So that's one complaint I have. I don't know if it was a case where this guy is actually invested in the show, or this was kind of just a job where they're like, hey, you gotta write these kids' books for this show that nobody cares about because we're trying to get people to care about it. And that's kind of the gist I got. I didn't really feel like that involvement or interest at all. Which is probably, as a fan, why it was such a torture to read. That honestly sums up my opinions. I feel bad for just totally trash talking. Like, just grammar-wise, grammar was good. This guy's a writer, obviously. There wasn't anything that stood out as just poor writing. I think it was more just story. And also, I don't know how long this guy had to write it. I imagine it must have been very frustrating having to go over all these options, making sure there was no dead ends. Which, by the way, there's actually some options where all of Mainframe gets deleted. Yeah, I actually was a little shook by that. I'm like, what? Did I mess up that bad? I just, like, got everyone deleted. But, yes. On the back it says $2.99. I don't know if this is pounds or euros. I don't know how European money works. Sorry, trying to get this to focus. Okay, it's not focusing, but it says £2.99 pounds. It's like a little weird loopy-y thing. I'm Canadian, okay? I don't know this stuff. But I can tell you I paid more than that for this book. It was like $14.99 Canadian, plus shipping from the UK, which, let's not even talk about that. We all know that the shipping is more expensive than whatever you're buying. I will try to find the other books and review those. This was more just a quick thing. It was a very thin book, so not much to say other than I found the gameplay a little convoluted with the game stars and everything. The access codes are supposed to help you, where if you go through certain paths and you get an access code, then later on there's points where it'll say, oh, choose this if you have this access code kind of thing. So I don't know if it's a reward or what, because I went through a lot of options where I have these access codes, but then it never asked me to use the access codes. Maybe I took the wrong path than what was intended, but I thought maybe simpler would have been better. I also feel like the story really suffered as a result. And yes, Would not recommend. Would recommend if you have a kid that's into reboot, then yeah, obviously, kids aren't going to be as hypercritical as an adult would. And even just for a collection, they are a little difficult to find. I found a couple more listings for this one and a couple of the other books, but I guess if you want a little bit of rarity for your collection, then yeah. So that's all I really got to say about that. Sorry for rambling. I'm a tad out of practice with this filming YouTube thing because I'm terrible and I'm sorry. I will hopefully I'm trying to go for a video every 2 weeks kind of schedule. So going forward, I hope I can stick to that. And stay frosty.